I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. And I am light. I am light. I am not mistakes that I haven't made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left inside. I am light. I am light. Oh, I am light. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I'm not my race. My soul inside is all light. I'm light. And I am light. I am divinity defined. I am God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light. I am light. Oh, I am light. I am light. And I am light. I am light. Oh.
Wow. Good morning, Unity Spokane. How are we doing today? Good. If we were on a cruise ship, we would be listing this way, and the captain would be making an announcement that we need people from this side of the ship. We need people to disperse to this side of the ship, because for those of you out in TV land, internet land, this side of the ship is all the people unmasked, vaccinated, that got their cards, everything's, and it's almost full. It's awesome. And I have to tell you, I was sharing with somebody before, like, it just feels normal. Like, hugging is happening here. Smiles. Anyways, so it's wonderful. So thank you all for being here. The space, the energy, love it. Anyways, welcome to Unity Spokane, where we are all about our mission of transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. I'm Jeff Tawney. I'll be your platform assistant this morning. First things we want to do, and I don't have mine on me, it's over there with Do Not Disturb, but we want to make sure we silence our cell phones. And also remember, this happened once to me. I had my iPad, turned my silence on my iPhone, and then my iPad started beeping. So got to remember to do that. So anyways, just remember to do that. We appreciate it. As always, we want to begin with our time together with our affirmation. And I will say it once, and then I'll ask you to join me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together? There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. This is Unity's foundation principle. One presence, one power, one life living as and through us. This morning we're going to be hearing from our transformational speaker, Reverend David McClure. I'm excited about his topic today. You know, it really caught me off guard because I was not really familiar with that quote, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? And then David and I had a personal conversation about it, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't mean that at all. So now I'm really excited about it. So thank you. Yeah, anyways. Okay, so enough with me. Amber McKenzie's going to come up with news you can use.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. How about that sun? Shining bright, like spirit, right? That's how I have to look at it. Otherwise, I feel like my face is melting. That's okay. Okay, first up, I'm really excited about this, and I think you will be too, and maybe you've heard about this. Unity Worldwide Ministries, the Board of Trustees, has released a resolution on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes. So it's an excellent document. I actually have one here. I printed off several. I printed off like 10. For those that are interested in reviewing it, it's front and back. I have it in the bookstore, so please come back and grab one of those if you're interested. We'll also have it in the Wednesday newsletter so that you could look it up online. It is available online. And so part of the document states, we are fully committed at Unity Worldwide Ministries to being an ambassador for diversity, equity, and inclusion in our world, and an example through our actions in the Unity movement. So again, the full resolution can be found on the website, but we'll also have those available in the back. Okay, summer Zoom book study with Reverend David continues. Beginning on July 14th, Reverend David will be continuing the Wednesday Zoom with the new book titled Heart-Minded: How to Hold Yourself and Others in Love by Sarah Blondin. Reverend David states, when we turn toward our hearts, we arrive like a bolt of lightning in the present moment, and all arguments against ourselves and life go quiet. The moment this happens, we light up from within, ignited by a force we had no idea was there. No matter where you are, no matter what you are doing, you can touch this place in yourself to feel free and alive. So join Reverend David for this meditative journey toward mindfulness with plenty to talk about and practice. If you are interested in joining this book study, please email Reverend David. His email address is on the screen. We will also have that in the Wednesday e-newsletter. Next, oh my goodness, this we want to give a big thank you to the landscape team. If you're on the landscape team, why don't you stand up? And you at home too, just stand up. Acknowledge yourselves. Yeah, please. Woo! Yes. We are so appreciative of all the care and love that you contribute to our beautiful Unity grounds. And we do have beautiful grounds. It's amazing. I kind of wish all you guys could come to my house because you would have a lot of work to do. Just kidding. Okay, today is the final day for our bookstore sale. So please come on back after services. Again, we have used books, fill a bag, only $10. New books, buy one, get one free. Greeting cards, buy two, get one free. I set out some of our jewelry, gemstones, the prayer beads. Those are all available and on sale for you to browse and please, make an offer. So please join us after services. Again, this is the last week for that. And then also next week, the bookstore will be closed for the 4th of July. And I won't be here, so that's mainly why. Okay, COVID update. Just to remind everyone, right now, Washington state requirements require faith organizations to be mask only within the facility, and the exception is in the masks optional section. You may remove your mask with proof of vaccination, and then, of course, outside in the prayer garden, it's not required, or if you're eating or drinking. Okay, so just wanted to make that announcement. Okay, and then next Sunday is the 4th of July. So we have Al Konigsfeld leading our Spiritual Journeys meditation, and he will be doing a Power of 8 group at 9 a.m. in the chapel. And then at 10, we will be hearing from Jeff Tawney and his talk titled, We the People, in order to form a more perfect union. Love that, right in line with Independence Day. So Jeff says, continuing under the theme of everything is spiritual, we will look at the necessary tools needed to get to a place of independence while being dependent on one another. We will identify rules of engagement for healthy conversation and relationships. What do we hold on to what to hold on to and when to let go? Join Jeff next Sunday for his amazing 4th of July message. And then on July 11th, we will have Reverend David at our 9 a.m. Spiritual Journeys meditation. He will be doing his love notes from the universe. And then at 10 a.m., we will be hearing from Hank Breckling and his message titled, Golden Age on Earth. It's a mission-centric world. So stay tuned for that. Finally, last but not least, we will be having coffee in the prayer garden. It might be a little warm, but I think you guys can handle it, right? So please join us after services for coffee or tea in the prayer garden. Okay, thank you so much. Now we have a song.
And for my next number, okay, thanks, Jeff. Good morning, Spokane. Good morning. Good to be with you today on this hot day. Ask me, how hot is it? How hot is it? It's so hot, I saw Robin this morning dipping his worm in his iced tea. That's hot. Anybody know who that pianist was? Atur Rubenstein, right. Pretty good. Not bad, not bad. That's true. Yeah, not too shabby. Well, if you spend enough time around 57th Street and 7th Avenue in New York City, you're bound to be asked for directions to Carnegie Hall. Which way is it to Carnegie Hall? Where is Carnegie Hall? What's the address of Carnegie Hall? So, Atur Rubenstein was, oh, by the way, how many of you have been to Carnegie Hall? Anybody? Oh, good. Royce? Anybody else? And Donna's been there, and person in the back there. Yes, thank you. Can't quite see that far, but it's all right. Anyway, people ask the question, but most people don't ask, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Because everyone knows how to get to Carnegie Hall, right? Not so fast. Yeah, not so fast. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Right on. That's how you get there. And it was the world famous concert pianist Atur Rubenstein who is credited with giving that particular quote on his way to perform that piece in 1946. Somebody stopped him and said, "Can you tell me how to get to Carnegie Hall?" He said, "Practice, practice, practice." Yeah. So that became the famous line from Mr. Rubinstein, and we want to talk about that this morning. I want to talk about practice, 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 basically, because practice, if you don't already know this, is not only the way to speak or perform at Carnegie Hall, but it's the way to achieve any worthy goal you may wish to achieve in your life. How do you get to your goal? Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to inner peace? Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to health? Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to college? Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to the Olympics? Here's one for you. How do you get to insecurity? Same formula, isn't it? Same formula. Many years ago, the co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, was asked what Unity is all about. And his very succinct answer was, Unity is the practical application of the teachings of Jesus. The practical application of the teachings of Jesus. And for a definition of practice, we have this: to perform an activity or exercise or a skill repeatedly or regularly in order to improve or maintain one's proficiency. And Jesus said pretty much the same thing. He said, "I have set before you an example that you should also do as I have done unto you. Verily, truly, I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them," or practice them. And that's the quote. You do these things, you got to get out and practice them. Some years ago, a reporter asked Flip Wilson, the comedian, about his religion. And he said, "Well, haven't you heard I'm a Jehovah's bystander?" And the question said, "A Jehovah's bystander? I've never heard of a Jehovah's bystander. What in the world is that?" And Flip said, "Well, they asked me to be a witness, but I didn't want to get that involved." From looking at this crowd this morning, none of the ones who are here are Unity bystanders. You are involved, especially the team that takes care of the landscape out there and everyone else that's here that I can see. If you ever hope to bear witness to the truth of unity, the teachings that we have, that Jesus taught and lived, you cannot be an occasional bystander. You can't come in and say, well, I heard that sermon, now I'll go, where was I? Oh, I was worrying about this, and I was upset about that, and I was doing something else in my life. And so we must become a practitioner. You know, if you belong to Christian Science, which is very similar to Unity, the leaders of Christian Science churches are not called ministers. Guess what they're called? Practitioners, right. If you want to get to spiritual life, there's only one way, and that's to practice the spiritual life. You want to get to Carnegie Hall, you got to do the same thing. So I want to share with you this morning how I got to Carnegie Hall. To do that, I want to have you first fasten your seatbelts because we're going to take a wild synchronistic ride to 57th Street and 7th Avenue. Synchronistic, and you will see the synchronicity in what unfolds here. Synchronicity is a phenomenon in which people interpret two separate and seemingly unrelated experiences as being meaningfully intertwined, even though there is no evidence that one led to the other or that the two events are linked in a causal way. Now, many people often call the events in their lives when things, you know, you're waiting to hear of somebody, you're thinking about somebody and all of a sudden the phone rings and it's that person. Have you had that experience before? Yeah, well, most people just say, well, that's a coincidence. It happens that way. But the word coincident means it's linked one event to the other. They're supposed to happen that way. The universe is working with you and for you. I've always believed this. I've always believed in synchronicities, that certain things in our lives are almost preordained. It's like we've been given a script before we even get here, and we play that part that has been given us, and it draws in the other characters and the events of our lives, and they're all meant to happen. Carolyn Mace wrote a great book called Sacred Contracts, and that was all about that particular thing. And I truly believe that each one of us has a sacred contract. And after living my life up to this point, I can only believe that I was put on this earth for a divine reason. So here's my story of how I got to Carnegie Hall. Carnegie Hall first opened its doors on the 5th of May in 1891. It opened with a music concert. A music concert. Apparently it has a capacity of 3,000 seats, and the concert hall has set the international gold standard for musical excellence as the aspirational destination for the world's finest artists. Atur Rubenstein, Tchaikovsky, Dvorak, Mahler, Bartók, George Gershwin, Billie Holiday, Benny Goodman, Judy Garland, Leonard Bernstein, and even the Beatles. The honor roll goes on and on and on of music-making artists and speakers who have let their light shine on the stage of Carnegie Hall throughout the years, and still do today. By the way, I read that it's going to reopen. It's been closed for the pandemic. It's going to open on July 6th again. So that's really good news. Now, move on to the year 1913. Across the continent, in a small eastern Washington town called Spokane, a man by the name of Dr. Albert Greer founded a new church in Spokane called the Church of Truth. And there's an ad. I don't know if that's from 1913 or not, but it could be. Royce, you were at the Spokesman Reviews since then. Probably, you can probably check that one out for us. Yeah. This was the very first of 22 churches that Dr. Greer founded called the Church of Truth across the continent and even over on the island of Hawaii. He taught, interestingly enough, that he wanted a place where people could go and practice truth. Imagine that. Practice truth. Practice mind, body, and soul together, creating a full awakening of the Christ within us. The Church of Truth was part of a loosely formed organization back then called the New Thought Movement. The Church of Truth had this vision: we are an inclusive community of Christ-centered, prosperous healing ministries which through affirmative prayer, practice, and support empower all people to awaken the Christ within. And the building where they used to meet is this place. This is the original Church of Truth. It's at 6th and Jefferson, is that right? 6th and Jefferson. The property there is still vacant. The only thing you can see of the old church is the steps. There's some steps going up to that. But that's where the Church of Truth in Spokane, the very first Church of Truth, was started. Now, later on, Greer was called away from Spokane, and he went to New York City to succeed Dr. W. John Murray of the Church of the Healing Christ, one of a succession of New Thought leaders to have captured popular interest in New York City at that time. And while there, Dr. Greer met a young Irish immigrant by the name of Emmett Fox. You've heard the name, I'm sure. If you haven't, go to the bookstore, go to the lending library. You will hear of him. Fox became immensely popular, spoke to large audiences during the Depression, holding weekly meetings of up to 5,500 people in the New York Hippodrome until 1937. Remember that date, 1937, when he moved his Sunday service to 57th Street and 7th Avenue, a place called Carnegie Hall. In fact, here's an ad from the paper at that particular time. Interesting topic. He's speaking on Pygmalion and Galatea, whatever that sermon was about. That would be kind of kinky and interesting to hear. Dr. Fox also went on to write a number of books, probably 24, if not more. And here are three of the most popular: the Sermon on the Mount, Power Through Constructive Thinking, and the one on the end, Make Your Life Worthwhile. Interestingly enough, recently, in the last 6 months, there was an interview with Eddie Murphy. You know the comedian Eddie Murphy? And one of the questions they asked him was, what book has influenced you more than any other book that you have read? And he said, Make Your Life Worthwhile by Emmett Fox. Even though that book was written back in the 20s. And here's a groovy guy reading Emmett Fox back then. Meanwhile, back at that date of 1937, in a small village north of Toronto, Ontario, a child was born to Mert. That's not my dad's name, it's Bert. Hey, Mert, how are you doing? No, it's Bert. Bert and Norma McClure had a child, and his name was David. Great guy. You got to meet this guy. He's really good. Meanwhile, and this is where it gets really interesting, my mother, Norma McClure, had a sister, Hazel Tenney, who found her way to 57th Street and 7th Avenue, to Carnegie Hall. At the time, she was a professional practicing stenographer with shorthand skills. And being inspired, she heard a sermon that day that changed her life, and she was so inspired, she went up and approached Dr. Fox after the service and offered her steno skills to him. She wanted to copy his sermons in shorthand. They had shorthand back then, and type them up and send them off to his mailing list. And he readily agreed to do this. So began a 2-year relationship between Dr. Fox and my Aunt Hazel. I kid you not. Among those that Aunt Hazel placed on the mailing list was her sister, Norma, in Toronto. My mom, who was a devout Anglican at that time, was blown away by Dr. Fox's sermons. She really got caught on to these, and it totally transformed her life and that of my father as well. They actually began to practice some of the thoughts and the principles in their everyday life, and all of us in the family could notice significant changes going on here. But my mother started to say, well, I wonder if there's a New Thought church in Toronto that we could go to. And so she started to search around to see if there was one. She finally found one in downtown Toronto called Unity Church of Truth, another ministry started by Dr. Greer. And so at the age of 6, I and my 2 older brothers, later my younger sister, started attending Sunday school at Unity Church of Truth in Toronto. At that time, it was being held on the 3rd floor of an office building, a ballet studio on the 3rd floor of a building in downtown Toronto. And so at the age of 6, I began my career in Unity. And later on, and I think I've mentioned this before in services here, I heard a voice as I was bored in an English class in college, came to me and told me that I was going to be a Unity minister, and I couldn't find anybody to disagree with me, so I entered the ministry. I was ordained in 1960. You remember that year, don't you? Yes, thank you. I was assigned my first church after I was ordained, and that church was Unity Church of Truth in Vancouver, British Columbia, another of Dr. Greer's ministries. Move ahead a few years now to 1965. One day I received a phone call from one of Unity's great ministers and leaders. Go back there. Dr. Eric Butterworth, who was serving at the time at the corner of 57th and 7th Avenue in New York City, a place called Carnegie Hall. He was holding services there on Sunday mornings. He said, David, I'm going on vacation and I want someone to speak for me. Would you be interested in speaking in Carnegie Hall? And I said, can a duck swim? Is the sky blue? I heartily and readily accepted the invitation. So along with my mom and dad, we drove from Toronto to New York City, stayed in Dr. Butterworth's home, and spoke on a Sunday morning at 57th Street and 7th Avenue, Carnegie Hall. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. That hall inside is so massive and impressive and beautiful. I arrived and my parents were seated, and I was ushered back to what is called the green room at Carnegie Hall, and there are pictures and autographs of all the people who have ever performed at Carnegie Hall all over this green room, and I had the whole room to myself. And the stage manager finally came and said, "It's time, you go out on the stage and knock 'em dead." So I went out and was greeted by that. It blew me away, as you can well imagine. I don't have a picture of me up there. My parents took all the pictures, and my sister has all those pictures up in Canada, so you just have to take my word for it. Yeah. Move ahead 10 years to 1975. I received a call from the then president of the board of this ministry, Sherry Barnard, asking if I wanted to come and serve at Unity Church of Truth in Spokane, Washington. You know that place, don't you? So in 1975, I arrived here, and that's where I met my dear and beautiful wife and life partner, my dear Donna. And I remember on our first date, I asked her, what do you do for a living? You know, what do you do? And she said, well, I teach string instruments in the Spokane public schools. Oh, and I also play viola in the Spokane Symphony Orchestra. I said, that's awesome, that's cool. I, wanting to make a good impression on her, said, I need to come and hear a performance. Watch you play and hear you play. And where do you play? And she said, Spokane Opera House, as it was called back then. And I said, how do you get to Spokane Opera House? And she said, believe me, I know, because after I got married to her, it was practice, practice, practice all the time. So finally, after 8 years being here as senior minister, both of us moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, and became ministers of, you guessed it, Unity Church of Truth in Honolulu, Hawaii. And here we are. That brings us to now. We're back at 29th and Bernard, sharing with you this morning. And that's my story of synchronicity, and that story continues. But your life, if you are willing to connect the dots, is just as synchronistic as mine. This is not unusual. This is the way it's supposed to happen, folks. Your spirit is giving you every day new opportunities to practice what you preach and what you're all about, to practice what a dear soul you are and how dear your soul is to you, to practice what you've learned here at Unity and wherever you go, to practice these principles in your daily life. Now, as for Donna and me, Donna now practices chaplaincy at Sacred Heart Hospital, as some of you know, but the call never stops. It keeps coming. Here I am back again this morning. And I will continue to do so as long as Amber keeps calling me. What we've discovered is nothing good happens to us without a combination of synchronicity and practice, practice, practice. Oh, by the way, there's one more slide that I wanted to show you. Anybody know who this is? Oh, wait, that's Donna on the Opera House stage. Do you know who this person is? If you have Prime, you know the amazing Mrs. Maisel. And if you don't know that series, Get it. There's been three series. The fourth one starts in December, I understand. She made it to Carnegie Hall too, because at the conclusion of the fourth year of her series, she performs at 57th Street and 7th Avenue, or the other way around. And how did she get there? Practice, practice, practice. Amen. Thank you.
Do you want to do the meditation?
To do the meditation, I forgot that. I haven't practiced enough. Yes. Okay. Let's practice doing absolutely nothing. Do you know how to do that? Take a few deep breaths and just be here now and let it all go. And into this nothingness, and the deep breaths that you now take, I want you to remember those times in your life when you practiced something a lot. Whether it was a musical instrument, a sport, a speech, asking someone to marry you, or when you practiced fear and worry, and anxiety about where life was going to take you. Maybe you practiced a little of that during the past year. Remember, this is a time to remember those times in your life, especially the good times when you practiced being good, doing good, opening yourself to receive good, allowing good into your life. That takes practice. Just doesn't normally happen all by itself unless we make room for it. Do you still practice what works in your life? You know, we speak that affirmation, one presence, one power, one activity. And I must have spoken that affirmation several thousand times over the almost 60 years of ministry. But every day, I need to remind myself, David, there's only one presence and one power and one activity in my life. God the good. And so bringing to our remembrance how difficult it was. Sometimes we didn't want to practice. We didn't want to practice the viola or practice giving a talk or practice giving ourselves to our work, our occupation. Maybe we were in a practice. And some days we felt discouraged and not enthusiastic about practicing. Remember that as well. But then you got a new lease on life, you got a new breath of fresh air, and you renewed your practice. Once again, you opened the Bible and you read the words of Jesus, who said, "Blessed are you if you hear these things, even more blessed are you if you do them." Remember that? Remember reading that? And you said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And you go back to reaffirming, reapplying, reusing that particular principle, a principle taught by the master teacher, a teacher who became the master through practice, practice, practice. And so this morning I encourage you, I invite you to remember again the practices that made your life enriched and prosperous and healthy and joyous. Remember, remember, remember. So it is. Amen. Thank you.
It's good music, and I think it's just a nice place and a time for us to do it up here.
I love this next man. He is somewhat single-handedly, I believe, kind of carried the torch for traditional country music ever since he stepped into Nashville and first made his first record. He's got more awards than anybody, more hit songs than anybody, and he wrote a song that made the whole world stop and listen after 9/11. Please make welcome the tall Georgia boy, Mr. Alan Jackson.
Thank y'all so much. It's an honor to be here in this historic building to bring the Opry, the country music to the city tonight. We appreciate y'all coming out and let us play for you. If you had a good time listening to all this wide variety of country music tonight, I hope you have. Anyway, I'll quit talking and tell my wife I'll do this song for her. Remember when I was young, so were you. Time stood still, and love was all we knew. You were the first, so was I. Made love and then you cried. Remember when Remember when we vowed the vows and walked the walk, gave our hearts, made the start, and it was hard. We lived and learned life through curves. There was joy, there was hurt. Remember when? Remember when old ones died and new were born, life was changed, disassembled, rearranged. We came together, fell apart, and broke each other's hearts. Remember when? My band of stray horns, y'all. That's a good bunch of guys. Remember when the sound of little feet was amusing? We danced to week, brought back the love. We found trust, vowed we'd never give it up. Remember when? Remember when 30 seems so old now, looking back. It's just a stepping stone to where we are, where we've been. Said we'd do it all again. Remember when? Remember when? We said when we turn gray, when the children grow up and move away, we won't be sad, we'll be glad for all the life we've had. And we'll remember when. Remember when. Remember when.
Wow. After hearing you speak, I feel very honored to just be standing following you. Amber sent me the order of service, and she says, it's a little different. You're going to be following Alan Jackson. And I was like, I get to follow Alan Jackson. But after hearing you speak, David, I feel very privileged and honored to be up here. So thank you. That was so many things I didn't know. So appreciate that. Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, love in the presence of hatred, and forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God. For we know that there is only one power, one presence, and one life. So whoever you are, or wherever you are, on your spiritual journey of transformation, you are welcomed here. If you're new to our ministry and are interested in learning more about upcoming transformational speakers, workshops, and events, please sign up for our email newsletter. You can do that at our website, or actually you can do that by texting Unity Spokane to 22828, or you can sign up at the website at unityspokane.org. We would also like to connect with you on Facebook, on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search Unity Spokane Center, Spokane, to find us. Now let's take a moment to acknowledge and bless one another with a socially distanced namaste. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or at home, I ask that you all please stand, and if you're able, and send your conscious, loving energy to one around you. If you notice, that took a little bit longer that time because there's more people here. Now is our time to celebrate the abundance together as we share our gifts and love offerings. For those feeling the divine call to financially support our ministry today, you can drop your offering in the box at the back of the sanctuary. Another option is to text GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 253-528-7416. Or you can visit our website, unityspokane.org, and click the donate button at the top. We also want to acknowledge and thank, sincere thanks to those who have been auto givers, who have kept this ministry afloat during all these virtual services and times. We wouldn't have been able to do it without having your gratuities and faithfulness. So we thank you very much. With that in mind, let's take a moment now to sink into our hearts and bring forth our feeling of gratitude as we say our love offer blessing. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. Our chaplains today are Gary and Diane. We have Diane in the back, I think. Gary is here in the sanctuary. I apologize. Gary is here in the sanctuary. Gary is right here on the right-hand side. He's got the purple sash, and Diane is holding a virtual service at home. Gary will... Oh, I'm paying attention to my notes here. I'm sorry. Gary and Diane will also be available after service here at the front. So if you have a special need or just want us to pray with you or just maybe share something that's on your heart, feel free to come up afterwards. They'll both be up here available to you following the peace song. We would also like to encourage, I just did that. I'm sorry. Keep moving, Jeff. You can also contact us if you go to the unityspokane.org site. You can click on the Contact Us button and also submit something there. Your requests are not only prayed for here for 30 days, but they also get forwarded to the Unity Prayer Ministry at Silent Unity as well. So now is the time. Our children will be arriving. I see. Let's welcome the children.
I'm walking. I am walking in the light, in the light, in the light. I am walking in the light, in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. I'm walking as the light. I am walking as the light, as the light, as the light. I am walking as the light, as the light of God. As the light, 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 as the light of God.
They're coming. I can see that they're in the midst of playing, and then all of a sudden it's like, we need to get in. Everybody rush. I see some heads bobbing. Here we go. Here they come.
I am walking in the light, in the light, in the light. I am walking in the light, in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. I'm walking as the light. I am walking as the light, as the light, as the light. I am walking as the light, as the light of God. As the light, 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 as the light of God.
They are here. They're in the audience. We would like to share with our youth our blessing. So together, be the love you are, sing the song you hear, share your joy of life with people far and near. And for ourselves, be the love we are, sing the song we hear, share our joy of life with people far and near. Let us now join together for our closing prayer for protection, followed by the peace song. Together we affirm, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well, and that's the truth. Thank you, everyone. See you in the prayer garden.